This is a View from the Bridge, official podcast of the Belfast Giants for kingdomofthegiants.com. Today's Tuesday, the 6th of September, 2022. My name's Patrick Smith. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. And of course, you can download us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, and all your normal podcast providers. On this week's show, two battling performances for the Belfast Giants, but ultimately two defeats in the opening weekend of the Champions Hockey League. We'll consider what took place in the Czech Republic and back in Belfast. It's the same opponents this weekend, and we'll see what lessons we've learned. We're joined by Kevin Raine to talk about the games and his latest post on his website where he talks about the ball-busting finale to last season.
Brilliant.
We'll look at a few pieces around the league. We'll chat a bit of news with Joel. And then we're joined by a Giants legend who's, he was the star of this. Yes, George Awada is back in the fold of the Belfast Giants. We're really looking forward to chatting to him later on. If you're watching us live on Facebook or on YouTube, send us your thoughts, comments, questions, and we can share them on screen and maybe get you involved in the discussion. Mr. Majimsey, how are you? Nice hat.
I'm okay, Paddy. I guess school's back, so it's back to normal. Kids are downstairs, should be in bed doing their homeworks, as you do, So tonight's homework for anybody that's interested for Lily was to write something interesting about the Tudor times.
What can you tell me one thing that's interesting about the Tudor times, Davey? Or
I can tell you one interesting thing.
Let's go. Tudor fact.
One interesting, the Tudor fact that Lily is going with. The term whipping boy is a Tudor term. And back in Tudor days, when you misbehaved in school and you got 50 lashes of the cane, if you were rich enough, you could bring in a substitute to get whipped for your child, and they were known as the whipping boy. That's where the term whipping boy comes from. Tudor times.
I can go out. My wife just went to see the musical Six, which she says is fantastic to find out about the six wives of Henry VIII. They're going to bring her in and have a discussion about it if you'd like. Just turn this into a Tudor podcast.
Well, funnily enough, my wife
talked about the six. Sorry, Joel. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We did talk about the six wives, and I think he. No, better not.
But my wife also went to see the Six last week, Paddy. So if you want to take the night off, boys, we can really flip this on its head.
Apparently, it's very good.
A view from the castle.
Joel, how are you? You're in the new house. You've got internet.
A wee box arrived from BT today, so I can't tell you that the place is finished. I'm sitting in essentially a white box here, but. It's progress, Paddy. The relentless march of progress. Hopefully, within another 6 months or so, I might actually get something on the wall.
If people see me looking this way quite a bit, I will say that I've sort of made a big mistake in the last couple of weeks. And my NFL draft for my fantasy league got, decided it was going to happen at 9:00 tonight, and I never really get that. So I'm sort of trying to present this and do my NFL draft at the same time. So let's see how we can juggle those things. Let's get stuck into these games, boys. The two games the Belfast Giants had in the Champions Hockey League to open it. They went, first of all, to the Czech Republic to take on, right, I'm going for Trinec.
Also Larry Trinec, mate. They're not.
Ocelari Trinec.
Oh!
Trying to see like an ETS.
Nice, David.
I was going to give Luke Fisher a voicemail, a voice message to see if he could come back to us as Lynn. But
I'm basing this on last year when we played Liberec, that they were Liberets, ETS.
He's right.
Trinets.
I can't remember what Aaron Murphy was saying during the commentary either. So it's in. But let's say Trinets. I'll go with Trinets. I'll take your word for it, David. We'll go for that game. The Belfast Giants travelled over to the Czech Republic to take on Oslo Trinets, and ultimately fell to a 4-0 defeat. Let me just bring up the stats for those watching on YouTube. There are the scores if you're watching. Vozanalik, Dano, Vrana, and Zaharadnik.
Jan.
Ultimately, Davey, we went 1-0 down after just 18 minutes. So, and then held out to the third period. It was a battling performance. I keep saying that.
Yeah, I guess all the discussion last week when we had Sheds on and we had Adam Keefe on, and our discussion between ourselves was if you want to stay in these games for as long as you can, you're up against high quality opposition, you know that you're up against the Czech champions and they're going to be good and they're going to be hard to skate with. They're going to be quick. Special teams is going to be crucial. And we skated well with them. We've conceded just before the end of the first period. Really bad time. There's never a good time in the game to concede a goal, but just before it breaks, always a bad time. And we've skated well with them in the second period. The real crunch of the game, I guess, was the shorty. When you're on the power play and we get 4 men ahead of the puck and they've chipped up the wall, and I think it's Dano goes 1-on-1 with Gilbert, and a forward against a forward, makes a little move on him, gets Peyton Jones maybe a wee bit tight to his post and gets one across the body. Really, puck seeking missile or net seeking missile. There's not an awful lot he can do, bar his positioning where he's came off the post. I thought for the most of the game, Trinets kept us pretty much to the outside. We didn't get very many grade A opportunities, maybe 3 in the whole game where we didn't take it. Certainly wasn't a 4-0 game. They've filled an empty net. They've got a shorty, and I think on Odyssey ice we can skate with this team. And a bit like Davos, there's no reason why for 40 minutes you can't get a result here. These are hard teams to go for a full 60 minutes against. It's draining. They've got deeper benches. And with the greatest respect to the bottom half of our depth chart, it doesn't match up as well against their top or their bottom half of their depth chart. So it's very, very difficult to skate with these teams for 60 minutes. You've got to hang in there for as long as you can. Try and get something on the special teams. Be good in the PK, which we were away in the Czech Republic. Unfortunately, they got a couple of goals against us that we just can't get back. And then they've ran out there 4-0, flattering 4-0 scoreline. Probably a 2-1 game. I think we deserved the goal in the game, albeit we didn't get that much rubber in their goalie. We had those.
It's a 2-1 game. We're playing great.
We had a couple of really good goal scoring opportunities. If we would have taken one, maybe a slightly different game, but we didn't. And that's how it goes.
That's an interesting point because I totally agree, especially on that short-handed and Dano going 1-on-1 with Gilbert on the boards. And I think I said at the time, maybe, it was I was watching with my dad in the pub, and or it was on the WhatsApp. I can't remember, but it was a forward on a forward, and it's difficult, especially on a player of that high caliber. Defensively, Joel, I was pretty impressed with how the Giants played.
Superb, Paddy. And just and as an addition to what Davey said there, my hot take on this is that if we play as we did against Davos in the return fixture against Trinets, I think we do them. I think we do them on Odyssey ice. I really do. 5 for 5. 5 for 5 on the penalty kill. Absolutely stellar defending. I think Peyton Jones, there was one point, I think, in the first or second period where he turned away just a pair of grade A chances, kind of back to back. And the Belfast Giants really did. They battled so hard defensively. Our penalty killing, I think, was absolutely tremendous. And I know we'll go on to talk about penalty troubles and the need to stay out of the box. But I think this game, we were fairly hard done by a couple of times. There was a tripping call on Kevin Raine that would have been incredibly soft even in the EIHL. So defensively, on the defensive side of the puck, absolutely no issue. I think we have ourselves wound up and we're ready to take them on at home. Offensively, it's one of those agonizing games, isn't it? The comments that are coming in tonight and the comments that were on Twitter after this game is that the scoreline doesn't tell the story. You get Daniel scores the first goal there. with an absolutely horrendous bounce off the backboards that comes out into the front of the crease. Very little you can do about those. You see them in hockey. Sometimes that's the way it goes. We hung with them for the majority of that game. There was one point, there was a bit of a scramble in front of the net. Mark Cooper dished a puck right across the crease. That could have been your equalizer. There was a couple of wee glimpses where you thought, goodness, this could be an entirely different game. And as Davey says, a lovely move from Marco Dano to cut inside on Gilbert for that second goal on the shorty. A third followed straight after, because you're sort of leggy at that point, and then the empty netter. It really is just so close to being a different game. And I think that there are little tweaks and improvements that I saw even in the game that we'll come on to talk about that makes me think we do them at home.
Considering, Davey, this was the first competitive game that we've had obviously the warm-up games against Cardiff and then against Dundee. Do you feel that we came into that game, or we appeared to be a cohesive unit?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. I think that there are glimpses within that roster already of lines doing really well together. I think we even talked last week about especially that second line with Coops and Laker. With that chemistry I had last year, Goody and Collins together again, and I kind of miss Gary and Bomber being together as much as they were last year, but obviously with six import day, which we also talked about. So, there are green shoots of good things that can happen. I think it might have been you on Twitter yesterday, the day before, talking about, you're really excited. This is almost, and we did talk about this as well last time. We want to compete every night in the CHL. But we kind of also have to look at it as a bit of an extension of our pre-season for the bread and butter of the Elite League, the Challenge Cup, when it gets going. Because, can we get ourselves out of this group now? Well, we need 4 wins probably. So, at this stage, we have to be focusing on next shift, next period, and just trying to skate with these teams this weekend. O'Sulari obviously come in with a chance in our own rink. It's going to be very difficult in Davos. We've been to Davos before. We know what it's all about out there for the elder statesmen amongst us. And then, obviously, we've got the 2 games against the Swedish to come up in a few weeks. So, never say never. This Belfast Giants team doesn't have quit in it. The club doesn't have quit in it anyway. And I don't see why there isn't a result in these next 4 games for us. A couple of points here. I certainly think there's a result for us in there.
You wanted to come in, Joel? Just
really quickly, Paddy, to hammer that point home. Whenever it was still 1-0 in the third period, 3 things happened in quite quick succession that could have turned that game on its head. Colby McCauley went in close on Mazanek, the goalie. There was a long video review that deemed that puck didn't cross the line, which is fair enough. But then Chad Butcher and Tyler Soy broke away on a 2-on-1 somewhere after the 45-minute mark. Mazanek came out and just intercepted that puck. Soisy was at the back door ready to finish that. And then we were denied a 5-on-3 whenever Scott Conway was hauled down in the slot. Just before then, Marco Dano kind of went away and broke away for that second goal. 3 incidents in that third period alone that could have had us right back in that game, and that's a totally different game.
So it's just fine margins, as you say, Joe. The game at the elite level, in any sport at elite level, and this is elite level hockey here, this is the Champions Hockey League, your best clubs in Europe. And we skate with them, and those fine margins can just flip a thing in his head. A goal goes for you. You look back to the first time, was it against Augsburg, and the goal's disallowed for the high stick.
Yeah,
it's a very, very marginal call, and those things, all of a sudden, we've got 2 wins in our first 2 games, and you're looking at a completely different scenario. So, you just Kiefer will have these guys ready to go from the puck drops at the weekend here, and we just have to go and try and get that first goal on the board. That'll be crucial. Instead of chasing games, it's a very different game when you're chasing as to what you play from in front, and we play good puck possession when we're in front, and that's what we've got to try and aim for.
A goal was, of course, signalled for the Belfast Giants, but ultimately it was miles away, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was not over the line. There's been many controversial video review moments that I'll die on a hill over, but that was not a goal. I would have taken it, but
it was. We, like I said, I was watching it in the pub around the corner. I got them to put it on because basically it's a Friday at 6 o'clock. There's nothing else on. So
okay,
me and my dad, who was visiting, we sat and watched it, and my mom, dad, and my wife, and we were all there, and they had to put up with me jumping up, going, "It's a goal! It's a goal! It's a goal! It's a goal!" Oh, it's not a goal.
Yeah, sit down, Patrick.
It's not a goal. Miles away. Disappointing, but ultimately, we go to these games, we go to these away games to get the experience in the Champions Hockey League, and that's what that was. Just another piece of experience playing out in Europe. Shall we move on to the game that took place on Sunday? Again, Champions Hockey League, and the Belfast Giants took on a team that we've said before we beat them in our last encounter with them. That was HC Davos, unfortunately not this time. But what a game it was at the SSE Arena. 6-3 to Davos, Fora, Nygren, Stransky, Nosbomber, and I can't remember who scored the other goal because it doesn't show you there. But anyway, for the Belfast Giants, Gilbert, Ben Lake, and Scott Conway. But it was a cat and mouse at times, Joel.
It really was. This game was electric. We had a bit of a joke in the group chat earlier, Paddy, just about, you're coming in after a fairly short summer off season, doesn't really get the fire in your belly. But from the drop in this game in particular, and obviously I'm lucky enough to have been in the building to watch it, but that first 5 minutes, the Davos fans, a small band of them were there in absolutely fine voice. To the credit of the Giants fans, from the drop, the corner was absolutely hammering. Everybody was joining in. That was a real electric opening to that game, and I really think we matched them for pace. We came out against a team that we knew were going to skate, and we matched them for pace throughout that 5 minutes. We're going to talk about penalty troubles and the need to stay out of the box, but I think, to be honest, whenever you're trying to match a team, I can't remember, but there's hundreds of NHL games worth of experience within that Davos team, KHL experience, high-level European hockey, and Davos as a club, it's historic, home of the Spengler Cup and whatever else. I think whenever you're trying to match them for pace, you're going to make forced errors. You're going to get forced into taking penalties because your legs are hanging off, because you're trying your very best to keep up with them. If that's something we can address again at 5-on-5, that's a game, I think. I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm making excuses, but I really do think that at 5-on-5, if we can keep it clean, that's another team that we can get a result from, and it would be historic.
5-on-5, rematch them, Davey?
Yeah.
For most of the game.
The XG says actually a Belfast Giants win in terms of, everything that gets factored in, grade A chances, shots from inside, shots from outside, block shots, etc. And had we came away from that game probably after half an hour in the lead, I don't think anybody would have complained too much. Davos wouldn't. This is an absolutely stacked squad. Came in on their charter jet.
Stanley Cup
winners. How the other half live. We've probably flew back from the Czech Republic, trained playing automobiles, and these guys have, came straight from Sweden straight to Belfast. So, in terms of, where they're not playing in Sweden.
Oh, well, sorry, you're right. You're absolutely right, Davey.
Thanks, Paddy. Stick with me.
I'm with you.
But they're probably brought their own chef with them, for goodness sake, and a backroom team. But so you're dealing. We talked about it the other day. There's levels to this game, and we're playing up a level, and we had to skate with them. We had to skate hard to stay with them, and unfortunately, it got away from us a little bit at the end. I think that over the two games, we won the face-off battles in both games. We certainly got in and around our goaltender a lot more in the second game than we did out in the Czech Republic. You get that little bit more opportunity for line match, and it was coached very well by Adam Keefe on the weekend. I thought that there were opportunities to get in the lead. Look, we had, I think, we talk about getting into penalty trouble. I think we had 9 power play opportunities of our own, so we can't say too much. Yes, was there a little bit of indiscipline? The coach wasn't happy with how certain things went. Probably wasn't happy with how certain calls were made either by the refereeing at the weekend. So, same thing as last game. Fine margins. 3 goals each. Who wasn't on the edge of their seat or on their feet? So we can skate with these clubs. It's unfortunate that this was in our barn and they've came away with the win, because it's going to be a lot more difficult in their place. Second period's always a hard period, and unfortunately for us, we just couldn't hold that 3 each and go into that fourth period in the third period with on an equal foot and go on and have a go at it. We're playing catch up. Then both games, when you're chasing down in that third period against a team that seemed to be able just to control the puck at their will, you spend an awful lot of energy chasing. And to their eternal credit, the likes of Norris and Longer and all, who were put out there to forecheck and crash and try and turn pucks over and give the top guys a few minutes off to get going again. I thought, to a man, the guys played very, very well on the weekend, and unfortunately, we just, that level that I talked about, just weren't able to quite get up to Davos's level for 60 minutes, but certainly for 35 minutes, we were on peer with them.
Can I just jump in there on the face-offs? I mean, I've been accused in the past and chewed out and boiled out for being a bit of a Kieran Long fanboy. Make no mistake about it, I definitely am. But that was his play off the draw that set Ben Lake up for the second goal, wasn't it? I think Laker has been outstanding in both of these European games. He's really, I think, amped himself up for these, and he's been checking really hard. He's been chasing hard, and that play off the draw was absolutely beautiful. It's the moment of the tournament so far for me, and Norris as well. I would be quite happy to see Norris with a season long contract as one of our Brits, based on what I've seen so far. I'd love to see him in domestic action and see if he finds a bit of consistency. I think he's been really impressive with the minutes that he's been given. But you're talking about a game here that we were 2-0 down against Davos on a Sunday afternoon. You're dead and buried. We come back from 2-0 down, and then we drew it again from 3-2 down. I just have a feeling, boys. I don't know. I just have a feeling.
I used it earlier on, but we did pull it back to...
It's a 2-1 game. We're playing great.
The excitement in your messages in the group chat when that went 2-1.
the phone came out. I'm like, wow. I had a bit of a back and forth with our friend Adam McKendry, who was obviously on the show last week, about one of the comments that he made as part of his match report for the Belfast Telegraph, describing it as an ill-disciplined performance. Personally, I didn't think it was an ill-disciplined performance. Ill-disciplined performances for me are games that you lose control of. You completely lose control of because you're disciplined. I felt that there are times when maybe the calls were going against us. You look at what happened to Scott Conway. Yes, he digs in on top of that fella who goes for Peyton Jones. But if a guy puts his hands on your goalkeeper, you go. And ultimately, I think it was unfair that they ended up with a power play in that scenario. They ended up with one more power play than we did. Yes, they scored on the power plays that they got. But ultimately, if we give up that amount of power plays but only concede one goal, you don't call that an ill-disciplined performance. Only that they were able to capitalize on the power play that you look back and think, well, we need to stay out of the box more. We always need to stay out of the box more, surely.
Who's that directed to? Joel?
Either or.
Joel.
Go ahead, Davey. You're pondering there. You're pondering.
I'll take off first because I don't think it was in. Is that McKendry being sacked then, Paddy? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. We had a discussion on Twitter, and then we moved it to more or less a private chat on Facebook.
I'd love to see those screenshots. Come on.
But, I'll finish the point before you come in. It was amicable, but what my ultimate point was that, is there a threshold for an ill-disciplined performance? I think there is.
I don't think it was an ill-disciplined performance. I do think there were moments of ill-discipline within it. Would that be better? You can't let the penalties take away from what was a great game of hockey. When you're playing, I know what you're saying about, you can't let people go crash your goalie, etc. When you're playing in the Champions Hockey League, and I think Colin Shields used the term during the game, you've got to, I can't remember what the term was, something about, give your ego a check, keep your ego in check or something. It doesn't matter at the end of this game if we're tallying scores that they hit my goalie, so I hit them back. We took a penalty. At this level of the game, and in European-style hockey with European-style referees, you will find yourself on a penalty kill, on a 5-on-3, and those teams, more often than not, will create many good goal-scoring opportunities. And they're that good that they get into the circles, they score goals. So there's a very, very fine line, and an intense game with huge physicality and guys out on the ice making split-second decisions. Sometimes the wrong decisions made for that game. And it's not like the Elite League where you can park it and you can go, well, I'll get you, if you're a Dundee player, I'll get you next weekend. Literally. So you have to be very careful. I don't think it was an ill-disciplined performance. I would disagree with that, but I do think that there were moments that the coach will be speaking to players going, lads, in this level, in this tournament, you can't be doing that.
I think it's really easy to sit here with kind of clear eyes on a Tuesday night, days after the game. But, to that point, I was sitting in the arena spitting feathers as well, because it's so frustrating when you feel like you can be back in a game, but you give up 3 power play goals in a row in a single period. And as I said earlier, having given a bit of time and thought to it, I think whenever you're trying to match a team that skates like that, you can be forced into errors and you can be forced into penalties because you're sucking wind trying to keep up with them. I think that the easy ones to to stamp out are the aggression-based ones. And it's easy to say that again on a Tuesday night. Whenever you're in the heat of the moment, these boys are athletes. They're competing at the very limit, and sometimes those kinds of things will happen. But things like cross-checking in the crease and whatever else, those are ones if we drill it into ourselves, go out anticipating a game where we're going to be liable to take a lot of penalties. Those are the ones that you could maybe avoid. But it is, I understand the context of that match report, because sitting in the arena watching it, just thinking that you have something here and then giving up power play goal after power play goal whenever you see things that are avoidable. I get it. But yeah, one of I can't remember who it was talking to. It might have been Ben Lake. It might have been Wiss after the game. But I was like, look, that game, 5-on-5, we were hanging with them. And he's like, well, if you look at it, the things that cost us that game are things that we can address really quickly and really easily. And that's a really clear, nice way to put it.
I think when we talk across the two games, Paddy, 5-on-5, we matched both teams for large periods of the game. It's always going to be difficult to skate for 60 minutes against both these teams, to reiterate of what we've already said tonight. We've just got to be that little bit better and that little bit more clinical when we get into the house and get in those hash marks. We've just got to bear down and we've got to try and get that goal, because leading, to reiterate again, we're a better team from in front than we are chasing, especially these top European teams. Very hard to chase down when they get a goal ahead of you.
Absolutely. Well, we'll come to the lessons learned. We'll come to the games, the return games later on in the show. Ultimately, I thought two battling performances. Big shout out to Sheds. Thought Sheds was brilliant on Sunday.
I was talking to him earlier there and saying the American accent really helps. When you're on the TV. So he was saying it's a bit of a hybrid accent going on, but there's definitely no Newton Orange in it. Like it's Pittsburgh stroke Ontario. Like it's a shocker, but that smile and that accent, he was destined for TV. So
I thought some of the insight he gave, especially from a forward's perspective, and the positioning for goals and stuff like that. I thought, ultimately, I think I said to Aaron Murphy on text, I said ultimately, Paul Adey's the king of this, but I thought Shed's done a great job, and fair play to him, considering it's the first one he's dug in with first one since the Friendship 4, I suppose.
Gives you a slight difference, because obviously Paul was a fantastic player back in the day, but he comes after 2 decades of coaching, and Sheds is obviously almost fresh off the ice as a player, so it's that slightly more nuanced modern take on the game. Paul Adey, you could sit and listen to and breaking down a game all day and all night, absolutely superb. But Sheds brings that sort of, he's played in the Continental Cup a couple of years ago. He's just away from playing in World Championships, so he knows his onions, and he knows a lot of the guys playing and tendencies and habits, and he's been doing a lot of homework, obviously, on the likes of Davos and the different boys that obviously for Trinet's coming into the weekend as well. So he's excited about it. We're excited for him, eh?
Yep, absolutely. Well done to him. The highlights, I believe, might be on YouTube, but I'll check it out. I know that obviously these are covered by Free Sports, but check it out and we'll put it up on.
All the goals are on the CHL website as well, mate.
They are on CHL website. Right, so let's move on. We've got a guest, and one we're delighted to have, because welcome to the show a man who joined Belfast Giants in 2004 from the Manchester Phoenix, and he spent 3 years in Belfast. Sorry, he spent 6 years in Belfast before retiring for the first time. In those 6 years, he spent 5 as captain, winning an Elite League title, a Challenge Cup, a Knockout Cup. He led players like Fleury, Courtney, and Shields to glory, and then he returned from retirement in 2012. No biggie, he just won another Elite League title. And those who have listened to the show for a long time know he's one of the best forecheckers, in our opinion, on the PK that the Belfast Giants have ever had. And he's back. Welcome to the View from the Bridge, George Awada.
Welcome back, George.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. How are you?
That's a great start, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Very well. Very well. Thank you. Yeah. I was just on the ice with the boys today for the first time. And so it was good. I was a little nervous, couldn't sleep last night. but it was just good to get out there and get on the ice. And just, I was at the game on Sunday, and it's a different perspective, like you guys are talking about. You can talk about it days and days, but even, when you're in the stands, you can have all those things live, but then when you're on the ice with them and see how fast and skilled these guys are, it's pretty cool, and I look forward to, contributing as whatever I can to the team. But it was a good first day. The guys were really welcoming, and he runs a great ship, so I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Before we come on to your new position within the Belfast Giants coaching setup, you mentioned the game on Sunday and what we've seen from the Giants thus far. What was your take on the game?
It was good. Everyone, I was up with the parents and stuff, and Davos, like, they're all worried about Davos and stuff, and I know they're good. Just I've never seen them, but you just assume they're going to be good with the talent that rolls through that part of the world and stuff. But I was just watching a little bit of the game, some tape there, and it was halfway through the game. I think it was 1-1, right? So,
yes.
And seeing that, and just it was a look. I mean, the finish obviously wasn't what you wanted to see, but for the majority of the game, I felt like it was our game to possibly have or steal, whatever it was. And obviously, you had the penalties and all that other stuff that does happen in any game. But for the majority of that game, it was pretty impressive for the fifth game of the year, or whatever, the sixth game of the year, which is it's kind of it's tough getting thrown in the ringer like that against a team like that. But the guys showed their mettle a little bit, and obviously there's things to work on. But it was a good showing against a team like that.
George, talk us through how this opportunity has came about. Obviously, left the Giants, must be close on 10 years ago now, something like that. Anyway. Something, and was the real world just too hard, and then got back into hockey a bit? And how did the opportunity come? But in a serious kind of thing, how hard is it transitioning away from being a pro athlete into the real world, away from hockey? And obviously great that you've got back into it, and even better that you're back in Belfast. But was it a hard time in your life, if that's not too personal a question?
No, yeah, it's a little bit, yeah. I mean, I played for so long. It became, my life and my career. Obviously, I didn't expect that when I started 12 years prior to stop to playing, So it just, things rolled on and kept getting better and better. And when I came here, this became my life, and I met my wife from here. And so this was my final home, it seemed like, And so when I stopped playing, the first time I was able to go back and train and stay in hockey back in the States. And then when I came back out of retirement, I guess that second time or whatever, the first time, it was great to play again. But then it was a good finish to my career. But at the end of that one, I still had an opportunity to go back to the States. So it was, for me, probably wasn't the best thing for my family. It's just because I couldn't get it out of my blood, and I still can't. And like I said, I didn't plan on this, but it's just the way my whole life, I guess, has been about hockey. And just having just the good experience here and just being able to play at this level, win trophies and have success, I didn't want to quit being a part of hockey. So, back in the States, I was, I was still in it. And that's what kept me going this whole time. And then, like I said, this opportunity was just, the timing was very good for me.
Genuine nerves last night about getting back to the rink and getting involved with the boys?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the last couple of nights I've been a little sleepless, but just because all these things going on, just thinking about, like, there's a lot to catch up. Because I've been coaching high school kids, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, and they're good players and stuff, but this is elite level stuff, right? So just getting up to speed with that, I think which I'll be fine doing, but I've been out of that part of the game a little bit, and I just want to jump in and help out as much as I can, as fast as I can.
George, I'm Joel. We haven't, I don't think, ever met before, but it's an absolute pleasure for me. I guess I have a little bit of a different slant on this because the genesis of my kind of story with the Belfast Giants, the first year that I really started coming to games and fell in love with the game, I came to a little bit late. It was that 2010-11 season, the season after you had initially finished, and I spent that whole year kind of making friends in the arena and hearing all the stories and seeing the videos of the playoff win and seeing the videos of you lifting the Challenge Cup in the Dundonald Ice Bowl, and it was a real kind of regret during that season. I was like, man, I would have loved to have been there to see that. This would have been incredible. And I haven't made a big deal of this. It hasn't really come up in conversation, but I'm moving house at the minute, and because of that, I've been digging through some old stuff, and I managed to find some top shelves from 2011, 2012. The return of Awada.
Some great writing in there. Great writing.
Some fantastic journalism from David McGimpsey in there.
Those are great.
But this was really a privilege that I had to be able to watch you come back and to do your thing. And just one last piece of show and tell, boys. We all know
show and tell.
We all know how that season ended. So
Yep.
Get it on the wall.
Yeah, I mean and I'll ask the question now. Sorry, I just had to get that out of my system. To be a Giants legend and to do what you did with that C on your chest and to go away for that year and then come back into such familiar surroundings with a brand new team and in an entirely different role. You were signed, partway into the season because the extra import in Ryan Crane that we had signed went down. I think Jeremy Rebick, the captain, went down. John Pelly was injured. What was it like? Was it a challenge to come back in an entirely different kind of role and mindset?
No, not at all. I was itching to come back earlier when I moved back here, and it just wasn't in the works because I had been training. I'd been skating all that year prior, training pro and college players, right? So I was kind of still in it a little bit, but I wasn't game shape and this and that. But I was physically, I was there. And when I moved back here, I was like talking to Stewie, I'm like, we got to do this now or else I'm going to get really out of shape. And I'm not going to be of any use to anybody. And that's when those early season injuries kicked in. And so just talking to Doug finally and just getting things kind of nailed in. It was cool. It was cool to jump back out there because, I've always, letter or no letter, I've always played the same way.
Yeah.
And I knew some of the guys going in. Obviously, I knew a few of the guys coming in, but I was in school actually at Jordanstown with Rebs, and who else was there? A few of the boys were there, so I got to know them before I actually came into the rink.
Right.
And that was the leadership group, so it was kind of cool. And there's Kiefer. I remember sitting down in the stall, and there's Kiefer across the way, just scowling at me. This old guy.
He's still doing that.
Oh yeah, I know. I don't miss that one. But I don't know. It was cool. I mean, I'm glad things worked out the way they did, and any way I could help. That was their team, so I was just happy to be playing again, and now that's all it is. And just like now, I'm happy to be a part of this organization again. It's never really left it, I've just been away, to say.
You'll feel very quickly the excitement to have you back again. And just briefly for me before I shut up, you've obviously come from Two Rivers High, Minnesota high school coaching, which you referenced there. You talk about coming back into the elite level and having nerves and whatever else. But for anybody who spends a lot of time on hockey YouTube or kind of Twitter or whatever, Minnesota high school hockey is a big deal. Like, I mean, it's a serious game out there, right?
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's the biggest thing in the country, more or less, for that age group. And you're getting 20,000 people watching a state championship final for 16 to 18-year-olds, which is crazy. And these kids they revel in it, and they perform just like the Minnesota Wild do on the same sheet. So it was cool. I wasn't at that level with my school. We were low end single A team and never getting a chance to do anything. But it was. Once I got more involved, especially last year when I took over as head coach, it was like you could, you kind of stand up a little taller and like it doesn't matter what team and how bad we are or how ineffective we are and the rankings and stuff. You're still coaching a high school team. And it has a little clout a little bit, and it was kind of a good thing, even though it was my third year coaching. So I I fell into a good thing. It was my alma mater. But it was fun. The school itself was, and the associations, it was on the rise. So it was a good time to be there. great kids, great families. We had a winning season, so it was just everything worked, and it made me look like a genius. But again, I'm just yelling at the guys, and no one can see or hear that. But at the end of the day, it's just I've just opened the door, closed the door, and that's all it was with those kids, and they appreciate it, the family appreciate it, and it was kind of tough to walk away from that. But again, like this is a great opportunity, so I'm going to jump on this as quick as possible.
A quick apology for me in the introduction. I forgot to mention the playoff title of 2010 as one of the honors that you also won as a Belfast Giant. On that, obviously we do a little bit of reminiscing, and one of the real seasons that pops up in many Belfast Giants' mind is that season with Fleury, Courtney, Huppy, yourself, and of course you as captain of that side. What was that season like for you, especially considering now you are captain of the Giants and they bring in a superstar like Theo Fleury?
Yeah, no, I remember I was working a hockey camp in Minnesota, and there's other teams interested in signing me, and talking to Ed, he's like, you're gonna want to come back, you're gonna like he had something in the works, and he's like, just come on, this is gonna be great. And he didn't tell me at the time that Theo was coming or anything, and back then everything, it was year to year, but I was gonna be coming back. I think it wasn't a thing, but then coming in, and then when he signed Theo, and then just Ed was playing, like it was just it was crazy. It was fun, and but there's so much respect with all the different levels. Obviously, when Theo came in, him and Mo were best friends. Like you wouldn't think that in a million years. So the whole room was good and tight, and Theo made it that way. It wasn't uppity, he wasn't pompous or anything. And that helped, I guess, my job a little easier, and us, with Ed's as well. Like we're just playing the game and scrap it along, and it helped to have him once he got in shape. It was just everyone was afraid of that guy, and it was cool. And Duty had a hell of a year too, and Huppy, like everyone was kind of benefiting from it. And it just I guess it's team locker room confidence, having that guy, even though he was at the downslide of it, I guess, of his career. He was still, his mind and his ability was still there, once he went, like I said, once he got up to speed. So it was fun. It was a fun time to be a part of. And we can all say, like, he's our friend. He's a teammate of ours, and he's a legend, And in the real hockey world, a
player like that allows you to raise your game, I suppose. He gives you the confidence to raise your game like that. Obviously, then we went on. You won the Challenge Cup, the Knockout Cup, and the playoffs. So, what are the real highlights of the rest of your Giants career?
I don't know. Everything was great. It was, again, I remember saying this all the time. Like I played for a long time without winning anything. And it was once we were here, obviously we won, the crossover call, these other ones that weren't really established, but it was just like, all right, here we go. That's cool. And then we started winning here and winning there. So it was, each of the years were unique in itself, but it was just, there's always expectations to win. And it was cool to have something at the end of it, and again, you can say if we didn't win, it still would have been great, but that just made everything better. And that's, obviously, the whole organization's great, the fans great, the rink's great, everything is great. Just winning those trophies year after year, it's kind of, you see those guys talk about when they win the Stanley Cup, so hard to get it the first time, but they wanted to win it the second time. So you saw Tampa, how well they did because they just had that juice. So it's just fortunate to be in this kind of an organization where we get the players year after year to challenge for it. And just being a part, like I said, being a part of that. It wasn't, I don't want to say it was towards the end of my career, but it was that latter stage that it was made it all worthwhile. All the injuries, all the road trips, all that junk, just because you're winning with the guys next to you, and it's all cliche stuff, but that's just why we play the game.
And the club is going through a very successful period in the last few years, and in 10, 15 years from now, people Joel's age will look back at the good old days, and this is so good for us to look back, because 2005 to 2015, that's the good old days, and nothing will ever be better. That was when we were all in the prime of our life. Is it cliche? Is it cliche to say
I had hair? I'd never had hair.
Yeah, you had a comb over and everything. Is it cliche to say? Do you remember those championship teams? Do you remember things like you referenced the crossover cup there? Joel mightn't even remember this. the night we won it, Roman Gavalier scoring
he
and
did
like
the-
doing the
the
row of the
canoe.
boat down
Yeah,
center
row
ice.
of the boat,
Like
yeah.
memories like that. I think they had to go into the back office and like find a trophy just to like give out the night. It's just like little
I was
things.
just telling Kiefer that story tonight because we're, all the captains have the trophies, all the pictures down in the locker room. And he's like, why don't we have those old cups somewhere? I'm like, they used to go to a pawn shop and find a trophy and just say, here you go.
That was a legitimate trophy, George. That was a legitimate trophy, and it stopped Coventry getting a Grand Slam. Let's not forget that.
I've got a photograph of it on my phone, so it's like they all count. But one thing that I do want to ask, and Paddy might have something set up for me here. Over the last couple of weeks, obviously the sad news came through that former owner Jim Gillespie has sadly passed away, and you will have lots of fond memories from around that time because winning the Challenge Cup back in the Ice Bowl, one of my great memories is there's a picture you handing the cup over to Jim and having. You must have some thoughts on Jim Gillespie.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's awful when I saw the news and everything, and I reached out to Steve and everything just to pass on condolences. I mean, I'm sure the world was doing that at the same time, but I just when I saw a few pictures, because I got a nice book from Coops and stuff with all these things, and it just I remember winning those cups and just giving him a hug, and it was like he was just so happy. Not for everybody, but but I was happy for him because I was like, finally, all the efforts that he's put in that nobody knows, and the money and just how much he cares about everything. It was just it was wholesome. Everything about him and his family that he put into the organization. Again, the players come and go, but some of us have been fortunate enough to be around long enough to be a part of that. But I remember just giving him the trophy and just feeling that excitement in him and just embracing him was just I'll never forget that. And I was just telling my wife the other night because there's the picture that they have on the Twitter or the website, whatever. I think we're handing them. I was like, I remember handing him the cup, and that was a huge hug because I mean we're playing in Dundonald of all places, right? Like you guys, I mean you understand how rare that is to win something there like on that stage. But for him to have that, to be a part of that was pretty cool. So those embraces and just his warm handshakes and Mitzi, everything about that whole thing was just, that's why everyone still wants to come here, I think, is because they created that atmosphere, that family care and and you guys have seen the fan base has just evolved from all that. Even before, I got here, everything was great. But I think, for me personally at those times with him those are good years.
Well, while we're being nostalgic, we were 7-0 in the Ice Bowl, so I think we should play more games there personally. But bar none,
going coast to coast.
Burgoyne winning it in overtime.
Yeah. It was shorthanded. It was a 5-on-3 shorthanded.
It was, yeah.
But that night, there's a picture of Bobby Robbins, and it's my favorite Giants picture, bar none. Bobby Robbins looking up at Jim Gillespie, and there's just that moment between the two of them. It's like a son looking at his dad. And Jim was the dad of the Belfast Giants. We call him Mr. Belfast, and it's all cliche and all, but it's not. He was that father figure, and like whenever he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, Killer talked about the Jim Gillespie clause in people's contracts, and whether it was an actual written down clause or whether it's folklore, that the Belfast Giants step out into the community and do that community stuff to honor Jim Gillespie, and because that's what Jim Gillespie wanted his Giants to do, and that's why Belfast signed Giants of men as well as Giants players, So, here we could reminisce all night, and I'm sure we'll have a beer over the coming days and do more. But we'll have to move on.
Absolutely. George, before we let you go, obviously, we've got this weekend's games, the sort of return fixtures in both. Are you traveling? Are you going to be part of those? Or are you focusing more towards the... Oh, no, you're traveling, are you?
I'm going. My passport's ready to go, and I got my kit today. So, I'm all loaded up, ready, and it's going to be crazy. Obviously, it's unfortunate we can't skate tomorrow. Because we just don't have ice, obviously. And so it would have been nice to get a couple days with the guys. But again, like I said, I was out there for a couple hours with them, chatting with them. There's plenty of Americans on the team, which is nice. Can have a little more connection with them about certain things, which is when I was playing, I was the only American, I think, for a while in the league. Like, there's like 2 or 3 scattered around. So, so first road trip, I mean, obviously when I decided to do this, or whenever, this all things came together, it would have been great to have been there for preseason and all that, and all, the training camps and stuff, but it just didn't happen. And, Kiefer understood it. We understood it. So this is a great ground or icebreaker just to get in with the boys. And just obviously it'd be great to go to Davos, but just that's where road trips are where you bond and get to know each other a little bit better. And it's a great opportunity, good timing.
Great. So, well, listen, we really, really appreciate your time. We could, Davey knows we could sit here and we could start going through all the stories, and maybe you'll come back on and indulge us.
Oh, he'll be back. He'll be back next week.
Some of the stories, but
good luck. I've watched you guys. I watched a few of these when you had Graham on, and just some of the old boys on chatting and stuff. So I look forward to more chats for sure.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime, and good luck this weekend. And welcome back.
Thanks, George.
Welcome back indeed.
Big thanks to George Awada for his time. That's wonderful. I know you see from the smile on Davy's face. He loves that. Bit of reminiscing.
I could do that nostalgic stuff all day, every day. It's what keeps me going. I wasn't really up for podcasting tonight, and jeepers, I'm happy I did. That was brilliant.
Let's go.
Let's go.
That's exactly, talking to one of the Giants greats in George Awada, a successful captain with us and a great player for us, and it's just great to have him back to pass that on to the next generation. And speaking of the next generation, we have one of the members of that join us right now. He played just this last weekend, and today, the last couple of days, he's released basically a story on his personal best website about the ball busting end to the last Elite League season. Please welcome back to A View from the Bridge. It's only Kevin Raine. How you doing, Rainer?
Hey, how we doing? Doing well. It was cool to sit in on the tail end of listening to George there and listening to the guys reminisce on time before myself, and so getting to hear some of it was pretty cool.
I'm just saying, Rainer, in 10-15 years from now, what this club has done over the last 3-4 years, and hopefully the next 3-4 years, will be guys will be talking about you in that kind of frame, and it's so much fun. This club,
we'll be having you back, and we'll still be here. We'll still be doing this.
Yeah,
we'll be having you back talking about those days. I got nothing else to do.
Probably
you
not.
know what I mean? It's literally this is it.
No, I do not have anything else to do. You're absolutely right.
Nothing else on, really.
My kids will go to university. It'll be
exactly. Just gonna sit here, just podcast every day. Rainer
gives you
take on the weekend.
Electric, mate.
Well, that's true.
Or take on the weekend.
It's dark here. He gives you take on the weekend, yes.
Take on the weekend. I mean, a couple of good teams, really, really good teams that we're lucky to get to join in the CHL this year. I think we can all agree that the pace was a little bit higher than anything we might experience throughout the season, and to be able to play at that pace this early on and to be competitive with these teams is only a sign of what's to come in season and reason to build some excitement. Fun to get into the Czech. Short stay, can't really say I saw much of the Czech, at least this time around, unlike previous trip a couple of years back where we did our Augsburg and our Czech trip, days apart, and there was some lag time in between, and more stories to reminisce on and to talk about the glory days. But quick trip in, quick trip out. I think the first game was maybe a little bit more jitter filled than the next one. It's in the first game where we kind of gain that confidence, like, all right, yeah, we're here, we can rock with these guys, and to be able to come home and to be amongst the Giants faithful on home ice against a team like Davos, and to play a strange 3:00 game and still get at it in the pregame skate, and then go home and turn it right back around to jump on the ice was pretty quick. But that sense of urgency that you bring to the rink in that situation was a lot of fun, and I think that we're right there with them, and we get a chance at both of these teams yet again. And so, again, something to be excited for.
So we've got this weekend, obviously we've got Osalari Trinidad's back in again, and we talked earlier before you came on, Kevin, about the actual game and how, although it's a 4-0 and it looks a bit of a blowout, it's a 1-goal game. We've lost one in the shorty, and then you're chasing the game, you let a third and a fourth. There's nothing between these two teams.
Yeah, no,
we can skate with this team at the weekend, and our results not out of the question.
Yeah, of course. And of course, a stats guy like yourself, you look at look at what we were able to do against these teams. We Corsi even, and shots even, scoring chances very even, very close, and it's although the score leaned that way, and as you said, we get caught behind it, that empty net goal, and then we're chasing it. And of course penalties. I think penalties have always kind of been a story. I imagine they're a story for every team. Every team has to be able to limit the amount of penalties that they take. That bit us both games. I think we were shorthanded for 10 minutes of the entire game, back-to-back games, and when you're playing short that often, you're unable to build that momentum heading the other way. And so that's something we talk about as a group, and something we want to limit. Again, early days, and to me, it looked like a team. Is it Christmas? We look really good. We're connecting. We're chemistry's built really early. Buy-in has happened very quickly in terms of systems, and the boys clicking together in all ways. And so, we're right there with these teams, and we're excited to get another crack at them.
We obviously want to compete. We wanted to win 6 games in the Champions Hockey League. We're down to winning 4 now. But how much can we take this as a bit of an extension of a high level now pre-season for what we're going into in the UK in the next few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd agree that those last 2 games that I played were the quickest paced games that I've played in my time in Belfast. Maybe aside from the previous CHL showings, and so it's the chance to go up against these teams is an amazing opportunity, especially for the new guys who, maybe a big draw for them coming in was the opportunity to play these games. We're right there with them, and you can't look back and wish you had those other 2 when you have these 4 more chances, as you say.
Raine and Paddy, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn to probably the main talking point tonight, which was the absolutely fantastic blog post on Personal Best about what is now just deemed as the injury. It's an interesting one. I first of all, if you haven't read that story, take 5 minutes of your time tonight or tomorrow morning and go and read it, because it's probably not what we think it is. It's the kind of second by second account of how it happens, but it also positions it in a really touching way, which really surprised me. And we've had conversations about this before, the nature of that injury, right? First of all, it's a really, really serious injury that you had to really press to get some urgent treatment over. But on the other hand, and this, it's funny, you've talked about having to own it, you realize what it is and having to own it and whatever else. But part of me kind of feels like, it's like when somebody slags your wee brother. No, I can do that because he's my wee brother, but you can't. It feels like that to me whenever people are kind of, cracking and joking. Have you found peace with it? How do you feel about it now? Because, I'm sure if it was me that it would be annoying me that people were cracking jokes and whatever else.
No, I don't know if it's one of those tactics where, if you get to it before others do, then they can't get you. Yeah, maybe there's that element to it. Another element to it, big time. Starting the season. Welcome back to Belfast. Oh, so excited to have you back. Like, how's the head injury? The wall, right? And so even though I've done a lot of sharing and gave it a lot of insight as to what's happened, there's still it's like, okay, there's still clarity needed, and especially at the time when I'm sitting there in hospital and Hope's in Sheffield and she's sitting amongst our home traveling fans. How's he doing? Is he doing all right?
Yeah,
and what did she do? Just like, oh, he's recovering.
Yeah, he's doing great.
So
she's celebrating on the ice, mate. She's having the time of her life.
Yeah.
But I mean, sort of bring that clarity, and I think it's funny the messages I've received of hockey parents going, hey, side note, finally got my kid to wear his cup, or hey, thanks for sharing that, and so I'm kind of taking really an advocate for proper safety gear these days. But I mean, I don't know, let people have their jokes. It did happen. I am fine and well. Did lose a part of myself, but I'm still, in good health. I think if I wasn't, that's when, jokes are not, not welcome. I'm sure if I was I'm sure if I lost a little more and it was an ongoing joke and Davey's able to post the bucket of plums, that I'm going, come on, man. Like, I'm running at half speed here, bro. Like, you can't do that.
Well, here, that brings me on to one of my favorite topics, which is the face mask that they wear in, like, say, NCAA, right? We wear shin pads. We protect our junk with probably a better one than you had last year. We wear elbow pads. So why don't we protect our nose, our mouth, and our throat?
That's an interesting one.
Our eyes, even to an extent.
Yeah, I think the visors are super important. I think that, the fact that they're mandatory and like pretty much everywhere is very important. I think a lot of junior leagues have gone to the full cage model because half shield kind of comes into play at around the age of 16 or whatever. In my experience, I've actually taken more damage wearing a cage than I have a visor, which is a really interesting take. The reason that is, at least from what I can tell, is the cage is connected by bolts on the front, and then it hinges on those two bolts. So what happens then is that everything that you take in terms of head check or an elbow or whatever is all redirected at that little foam cup that you've got for your chin. And so anything taken up here, taken to the side, it's all coming back to here. And so my chin is all scarred up, and I've taken a lot of hits, to the teeth and whatever else from the cage. And then I guess there's the fighting angle to be discussed too, which, I don't do much of and don't aim to do too much of. And I try to stay a little bit, relaxed out there so I don't find myself in a situation like the previous CHL, which, we all recall. But yeah, I don't know. I think the visor and the cage are to be discussed and debated, and where they land with that, wherever it is they're discussing that, is a matter of opinion. Imagine if like a team's chasing down insurances or things like that the insurance company might be convinced of what is safer, and it's really them and their opinions that matter the most when they're trying to hit you with a bill and you're trying to get it a little bit down, and so you put cages on the boys so that your bill isn't so high. But yeah, mouth guards, shot blockers, reinforced cups, mouth guards. I'm all for it all. Anything to get us through safely. I'm definitely all for these days.
We had sticking with the sort of, we had a question there from Hen Steph saying, did it take you a while to adjust to playing again after the injury, or were you able to jump back into it?
That's a great question, because it was a mental hurdle, big time. It ultimately was the contemplation of my whole career, what I'm doing out here. Right? I think had it been worse, and I think if there wasn't a championship tied into the whole story, and it wasn't such a story, it's kind of, is the juice worth the squeeze, and how much of myself am I willing to sacrifice for the game, and how many body parts am I willing to give up, and what is next? And it brought a lot of internal questioning about, and ultimately I made it out the other side safe and sound, and with a story to tell, and one that's being enjoyed by those who get to read it. But then my big worry was wondering how I'd be in the exact same situation, because it truly was a routine play. It is a routine play for me to jump in front of that thing.
Yeah.
And I, at least in practice, early days, as soon as we jumped into training camp and pucks were flying around in our little, power play PK scenario that we run at practice, I'm sitting there going, oh man, I don't know. But then it was very quickly in the games against Cardiff where that came naturally, and I was excited to do that. And, I've been hit everywhere but where I've been hit, and I've adjusted accordingly to accommodate for everywhere that I've been hit. I cover my face. I approach very square to the puck. I try not to look away because I've been blasted in the neck and everywhere else. But again, a little bit more modifying so that I can dive in front of pucks and feel confident about it. But ultimately was able to get over all those fears, I guess.
Question there, just a technical question.
Sorry, I'm long-winded.
You're talking about squaring up the puck. What do you do with your stick? Because I remember one famous one where Jason Ruff has done exactly the same. He's squared up and it's hit the stick and gone straight up, broke his nose. It's just pucks skid up. So do you do anything particular with your stick? Just on that one where you're standing up to it?
Yeah, I try to get stick in the passing lane or on the puck that's being shot, which is exactly the scenario that's created when it rides up the stick and gets you in the face. But it's all kind of situational. I have a hand for it here, and given my recent injury, I can imagine where I should be putting my other hand. So you guys will be able to slow-mo it and frame by frame it and see what my new strategy is. But I mean, and if I'm not using the other
that's a
hand,
challenge right there to Davey.
yeah, no kidding. If you use this frame, you can see just how scared this guy is.
Yeah. Rightly so.
If you listen, if you listen carefully, you can hear him gasp as the puck comes in. The coming back just briefly to the weekend past, Raine, obviously you had the 2 games against the Devils, the 2 games at Dundee to prepare. Obviously a very, very different standard, very different speed of game when you come in there. But we were saying earlier on in the show, especially in that first game against Trinidad, defensively, we were great. We were able to skate with them, and we were protecting Peyton Jones really well.
Yeah, I think the emphasis on getting back and plugging up the middle on the back check and holding all guys accountable to taking that role on. Some guys are coming from teams where they were allowed to float around the far blue line and wait for somebody to airmail them one. And no, not here. You can't. No hiding from video. These days, given these standards, and so guys are working hard. Guys working hard in practice. Guys are adding that to their game or really reinforcing that in their game if they're not used to it. And there's a lot of trust from the D's perspective that we're able to force, we're able to gap up, we're able to go, we're able to limit those options. And if we get beat, well, then the middle's plugged up full of all these guys coming back, and it's them that are able to turn it around and get it going the other way. And so, they get to make me look real good when I've been beat to the middle, except I get beat to the middle to the back checking forward who has me covered. And so thanks, guys.
And then on Sunday, there was a part of the game. I can't remember who the Davos player was, but you were you had a big smile on your face anyway as you were going head to head with him on the boards.
Yeah, so I hit him. I stepped into him, and I guess it was an offside. He didn't like it. Somehow, yeah, and so he didn't like it, but so he had words, and so I grabbed him. I made sure I had both his arms so that he couldn't swing at me, and then while I had him where I wanted him, I felt tough because I knew he couldn't hit me.
So how's the prep? Before we let you go, obviously we got the return fixtures. What lessons have we learned, do you think, going into these games?
We've learned that we can keep up them. We know that our systems, both old and new. Old being I've seen them, I've understood them, I've played within them for the last however many years, and some guys are coming in and it's totally brand new, and they're thinking, man, I've never been encouraged to do these things. I've never been encouraged to be so aggressive. Given the success we've had in these games, there's that trust being built in what we aim to do as a club defensively, and how that then turns around into offense. And so if there's anything we've learned is that we can hang with these guys, and that what we did worked for the most part, aside from our penalty trouble and things like that. But stick to the plan, stick to the system, have trust in each other, and stay out of the box and see what we can really do.
I'm gonna sorry, Paddy. I'm gonna wrap this one, if you don't mind, just with a little excerpt from this blog. It hit me between the eyes this morning whenever I was having to read at it. Just your way with words and the way you tell a story, that is very, very commonly talked about around our fan base. It is the definitive sort of account, and it really puts it into perspective. You're lying there in the hospital, and there's 1:41 left in overtime with the boys in Sheffield, and they decide to wheel you away for surgery right at the bottom of that game. And I mean, it's the NHS. If it's time to go, it's time to go. But you're on a trolley on the way to theatre. And this is a quick excerpt, and please go and read this if you haven't already. We'll repost it on A View from the Bridge. You say to the nurse, "Excuse me, do you have Twitter?" She says, "Yeah, why? Could you do me a huge favor and search Belfast Giants for me?" She flashed me her screen showing me the Belfast Giants Twitter page, goal, no goal, etc. You say, "They're in a shootout. If you see a GIF looking thing that comes up, whether it says win or lose, can you let me know?" About 20 seconds later, she pointed her phone, showing me a GIF reading win with confetti flying. Bewildered and ecstatic, I'm carted away before I can say anything to her. I'm going to not read this part out loud. Bleep, bleep, I thought, as I bragged to the people who were ready to hit me with the gas. They say, "All right, you ready? You seem chill." And Raine says, we're champs. To me, honestly, you want to talk about what a Belfast Giant is, boys? That's it right there.
Outstanding. Yep.
Thank you, buddy.
Hey,
Absolutely
thanks,
brilliant
guys.
winner.
Cheers.
Check it out on Personal Best website, and good luck this weekend, mate.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, bud.
Cheers.
Big thanks to Kevin Raine for joining us once again on A View from the Bridge. Always great to have him on. And, they say, check out his website, Personal Best, and then check out that blog. It's really worth reading. I read it earlier on today. And like you say, Joel, the extract there was an absolute stunner. But it's from start to finish, it's such an interesting read.
It's really something.
Any news, Joel?
Yep, we're obviously a little bit over, so I'm going to rattle really quickly, boys. Just a quick note on Coventry Blaze's latest signing. They lost Canadian forward Brock Trotter ahead of the new season. He didn't take up the contract. He decided to retire after playing pretty much all over Europe. Danny Stewart has brought in centreman Marley Quince to the Coventry Blaze at short notice. The eagle-eyed amongst you. He was part of the 2017 Clarkson team who clinched the Bell Pot over Providence at the Friendship 4. So was no stranger to Belfast. Interesting to see a new import come in that isn't a Belfast Giant, but there you go. The Friendship 4 no doubt playing a part in that acquisition. Really quick preseason roundup. Last Wednesday, the Panthers found their first win of preseason with a 4-1 win over the Blaze at the Sky Dome. The Storm handed Sheffield their first defeat with a 5-3 win in Aldringham. 4 EHL preseason games on Saturday night. The Guildford Flames came 3-0 in Manchester to beat the Storm 4-3. Tough look there. Sheffield Steelers scored after 25 seconds against the Coventry Blaze, and then absolutely nothing else happened. Big win from Jeff Mason's Dundee Stars in Glasgow. They beat the Clan 6-3, and the Cardiff Devils travelled to Nottingham in the first leg of the 2022-23 Aladdin Cup. Taking the 4-2 win in the first leg. And on Sunday, Cardiff hosted Nottingham in the big decider, with the Devils coming away with a 3-2 win and hoisting the Aladdin Cup as the people danced in the streets of Cardiff Bay. Dundee Stars down the 5 Flyers, winning 5-3 at the DIA. The Coventry Blaze upset the Sheffield Steelers. That was an interesting one, 4-2 on Sunday afternoon. That's their first win of preseason. And finally, the Guildford Flames topped the Storm 6-1 at the Spectrum. But this week, we do it for real, boys. Challenge Cup and Premier Sports Elite League action. The Glasgow Clan host the Flyers on Friday. The Stars go to Fife on Saturday, and then return home to face the Clan on Sunday in the Cup and in the league on Saturday. Here we go again. Panthers against the Flames, Storm against the Blaze, Steelers against the Devils, which is probably pick of the weekend domestically. And on Sunday, the Blaze against the Panthers, Devils against the Storm, and Flames versus Steelers. Just really quickly, Paddy, there was quite a lot of movement on the benches this summer, kind of more so than usual. So just a quick refresher or a quick cheat note for anybody who isn't up to speed. Nottingham Panthers, Omar Pasha has become their new chief executive from Dundee Stars, friend of the show. He quickly appointed Gary Graham from the Omaha Lancers of the United States Hockey League, somewhere where former Giants like Doug Christensen have coached. He has ECHL experience, and he helped build the Chinese national team for the 2022 Winter Olympics, oddly. And in Dundee, obviously, in Omar Pasha's place is our former head coach, Giants legend Jeff Mason. In Manchester, Ryan Finnerty has gone upstairs, and former starting goalie Matt Ginn has his first taste of head coaching. And in Cardiff, Brodie Dupont was obviously took over for the playoffs last season after the departure of Jared Scaldi, and he has continued on. And then elsewhere, Sheffield, Aaron Fox remains, Coventry, Danny Stewart remains, Todd Dudiem obviously remains in Fife, Mr. Fife, Paul Dixon is still in Guildford, and thank God Malcolm Cameron is back in Glasgow. And that's just a quick roundup of preseason. And this weekend, as I say, we do it for real, boys. Well, they do.
I think you said it last week, Davey, that I need to update the soundboard with some Malcolm Cameron stuff and some other bits and pieces that have been said over the last while, because the soundboard still it's got a lot of volts. Some things aren't going. I'm going to play us again because I just love it.
Somebody at Judas, big dig in the back of the head, or 2 or 3 people giving you a booting. Not on, 100%. Get the police involved. But see one boy against one, and they say, right, come on, well, 2 of us around the corner, nobody else involved. Fair enough.
That came from the Nolan show when they were talking about the Giants, and one of my favorite colours, outside of course,
the Sheffield Steelers top 10 on tape.
Yeah.
Another angry Nolan, the caller. Stephen.
Right, it's 2 fixtures obviously this weekend. We've got Friday at 6:45. We go to Switzerland to take on HC Davos. That will be on Free Sports. And then back here on Sunday, 4 p.m, Belfast Giants against Trinets. at the SSE Arena. This is also on Free Sports, but get yourself down there. It's no doubt this is a game, and I said this to you boys after the defeat there. I wouldn't be surprised if we do them one on Sunday. The way that we played against them, I can see us winning. I can definitely see us winning that game. I think the HC Davos one's going to be really, really difficult, especially in their own barn and how stacked that team can be. But definitely that Trinets game is one I've got my eye on. I think that we have the opportunity there to invite another Czech team into the SSE Arena and send them home, complaining about something about Slapshot. What, Davey, just briefly, before what we heard from Kevin Raine earlier on, what do you think we've learned from the 2 games we've played?
What we've learned versus what we've learned is that we're good enough to compete. What we've learned, as Kevin Raine said, is that we need to be slightly more disciplined in key points of the game. We still need to play. We have to play a North American style of hockey. If we go European against these teams, we'll get destroyed. We have to be physical. We have to be in their faces. We have to get into the blue paint. We've got to get about their goalkeeper. The first goal, crossing that Royal Road, absolutely superb. When you get down that wing and you get that across the goaltender's eyes, and I think it was Gilbert, wasn't it? Just patient on the puck, then roofs it. Those are the goals that win you big games like this. We have to get in and around the goaltender. Shots from points don't beat these high-quality goaltenders. So we just have to be physical from the get-go, but contain that physicality within, I suppose, the laws of the game. Difficult because the European referees ref it in a certain way. So, you don't get away with that extra shot. I think wasn't there a bit of an altercation down the wall. I can't remember whether it was Coops was involved in it, and the Davos guy has his helmet and he gives him the extra shot and takes the penalty. If you take the extra shot, they'll let things go. But if you take the extra shot, generally they don't take 2 in this competition, they take 1. And as we've seen from that altercation in around Peyton Jones' net, who's been excellent, by the way. When you see those altercations around the net, they pick a protagonist out and they take 1. They don't, EIHL, 1 guy each, let things simmer down. So we've got to keep a lid on our emotions as best we can, and just believe that we can skate with these teams and opportunities will come. And when those opportunities come, you have to take them, because at the other end, they're getting taken against us. So strong discipline, strong in defense, and take those opportunities when they come along. Makes it sound easy, doesn't it?
It was that physicality against Liberec that brought this.
Second
Score
period
more than
reminded
them.
me of a movie of Slap.
Joel?
Yeah, look, Davies has given it a fantastic summary of where we're at and what we need there. I think it's a case of respect them, but don't fear them, because I don't think we have anything to fear. We have shown that at 5-on-5 we can hang with some of the best teams in Europe, and we just need a little bit to go our way. And maybe if there are penalties that we can avoid, if there are aggression-based penalties that we can avoid for the good of trying to score a result, then I think that's a lesson that we can learn this week. But respect, but no fear, boys. Let's have a rattle at them. I genuinely think my hot take this weekend, and you can crush me on the internet, is that I really think that we have a result in us over Trinets in Belfast.
I agree. Those games, like I said, it's Friday at 6:45 on Free Sports, live from HC and Davos. And good luck to everybody traveling out there. Very, very jealous. Looks like a hell of that
arena,
cathedral.
Paddy. Yeah, it looks like a church. I've never seen anything like it.
They call it. It looks absolutely stunning. So, safe travels to everybody traveling out there. Like I say, very, very jealous. And we join them Free Sports with Aaron Murphy Friday at 6:45, and then back to the SSE Arena on Sunday 4 p.m. for the game against Trinets. Any other business, boys? I'll just start with one. Blake was in the arena on Sunday.
Yes, he was. So
and, it was good to see him there.
So good to see him back.
A lot going on. And
good to see the whole family, actually. Andrew and Christine and Pixie and Neil were there as well, and you can tell that that's a really special kind of it's respite for them. I think it's a chance for them to, as we often talk about, come through the doors and just be a family and to enjoy their hockey and to unite around the thing that we love. And it's great to see Blakey growing up, and he was looking good at the weekend there.
Here,
just for Neil Russell.
That's going on backwards. What's he said? Put the hat on backwards. Can't see your face.
No, he said non-branded pure form because you boys have the, all the all the swag on. So I'll dress like Jonathan Williams here. I'll be a 40-something-year-old man with a backwards baseball cap. I'm like Fred Durst here, but it's a bit of a facelift there, actually. I like it.
You look good, pal. You look good.
Evening, coach. Anything for yourself, Davey?
Imagine getting chirped by the CEO of the Nottingham Panthers.
There's a book
no further business from me, Patrick. No further business.
I gotta write. There's a book there, mate, and I'm gonna write it. Anyway, let's wrap it up. Like I say, big thanks.
Give me a free copy
to George.
because I'll not be banned.
Thanks, mate. That's just unbelievable. Used to compliment my writing back in the day. Anyway, the big thanks to Kevin Raine and, of course, to the wonderful George Awada for joining us on this week's A View from the Bridge. A big thanks to Michael Cooper as well. Those photographs regards to Jim Gillespie at the
and congratulations to Michael Cooper on his double victory.
On his double victory? What have I missed?
He's the top marksman in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. He's like he's a gunman.
Oh, is he?
Fair play.
And he's won like.
I'm not going to follow that up with anything else, really.
Wrap the show, Patrick. Wrap the show. We're official now. Wrap the show. The 2 games, as we said, against HC Davos Friday, 6:45. If you're not making the trip out to Switzerland, you will get that on Free Sports of Aaron Murphy, and then the trip back, SSE Arena, Belfast Giants against Trinity. That is 4 p.m. on Sunday. And if you can't get down to the arena, that is on. Oh, you can do that. Oh yeah, right enough. Well done to Michael. So for everybody not watching on YouTube, there's a picture of Michael Cooper with his trophies. Yes, and that's 4 p.m. on Sunday, and you can get that on Free Sports if you're not making the trip down. Gentlemen, a pleasure to see you. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
And you can get us on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, kingdomofthegiants.com, and all your podcast clients. And wherever you are watching your hockey this weekend, be it in Switzerland or back at home, we hope you enjoy it. We'll catch you here next time on A View from the Bridge.